A couple of scriptures with you. You'll start with me, Tony. I'm going to go to Job 7 and 11. If you'll put that one up there. And kind of the point of what I'm going to talk about today is our attitude and how our attitude is so critical. In this scripture that I'm having Tony pull up, Job, everybody knows about Job. Everybody knows the story of Job. Everybody knows the things that Job had to suffer. And in this scripture here, Job is in a situation where he is just about to do something. And I think it's going to start me off today. Job says this. He says, I will not refrain my mouth. That is a big problem, isn't it? We do need to refrain our mouths. Tony's laughing. That's hard to do, isn't it? Because this mouth can say whatever. It comes in my head, right down the mouth, and it doesn't take but a split second. Really. But he says, I've been through so much. I'm not going to refrain my mouth. I'm going to speak in the anguish of my spirit. And he says this, I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. Anybody know anybody like this? I've known people like that. I've known people that every time you got around them, every time you asked, I finally just quit asking some folks how they're doing. You know why? It's not that I don't care. See, he said they tell me. And I hear about all their problems and all their issues and all this and all that. One thing, Robbie's here. Good to see you, Robbie. Before he departed this earth, I got to be close with her husband through Verizon. And I want you to know something about that guy. He had a heart attack, did he not? When was that?
March 2002.
2002. I remember where I was when I heard the news. I was out there in that gym in Sunday school class. But he had that, and for years, I saw him. He would come by and visit me at Verizon. And not one time, and I don't believe it was. I don't think he was just playing for me. But not one time that guy ever complained about anything. I think he only had about, what did he have? About 15% of his heart muscle was working. And every time I saw him, he was heading somewhere. Every time. Last time I saw him, I think he was up in Canada doing something. I said, what are you doing? What in the world are you doing out there in the wilderness like that? But he not one time ever, and he'd tell me about the other stuff. But what I'm telling you is he just wouldn't let a complaint come out of his mouth. Even though he had and others I've met will just complain to you all day long about this and about that. I mean, and sometimes, unfortunately, it happens. But we've got examples of how complaining, it doesn't help. Did you hear me? It doesn't help to have we ought to always be positive. I mean, as Christians, we've got so much to be happy about today, as you've already heard this morning. I mean, you don't even have to worry about what's in your future or anything like that. The Apostle Paul, one time, he said this, and we quote this a lot because he goes, look, I know, Paul said, I know how to abound. And he said, I know how to be abased. Paul knew how to be beaten with stripes. We don't know anything about it. They stripped him naked a lot of times, threw him out of towns. I mean, they threw him out of the town, beat him half to death, and left him for dead. And he didn't quit preaching. He didn't complain. He got up, dusted himself off, got his Bible, went right back. And just proclaimed the good news. But he said, I can do all that. See, Paul knew how to do everything, whether it was good or bad. He knew, and it's easy when it's good. I'm doing really well. In case y'all wanted to know. But sometimes I'm not. And then it's hard. But I can do all things, even if I'm having a bad day, I can have one through Jesus. And He'll get me through it to the end of it, whatever it is. He's shown that time and time again. Give me 1 Corinthians 10 and 10. Job just says, I'm going to complain. But look at this. We have examples. The children of Israel, they were out in the wilderness. And do you know what they started doing out there? Fussing, murmuring, complaining. Do you know they even had the audacity to look at Moses and Aaron and say, why did you bring us out here? Why are we even here? Do you not understand what we left behind in Egypt? We had food to eat up. We had food to eat there. We had big old melons to eat there. We had all kinds of things that were delicious. And now here we are out here in the wilderness. You brought us out here to die. That's how much faith they had. The scripture says, don't murmur, as some of them also were murmured. And look what happened to the murmurers. Remember that old thing I was talking to you about earlier? Man, I'm telling you, this is a spiritual thing we're in. And these spirits, they know where weakness is. When you open your mouth and start complaining, it's just a big old green light for the old darkness and the old destroyer to just come in there and just, I mean, boy, you want to do some complaining. He'll give you something to complain about. And it won't be too long, and he'll just keep you in that hole over and over and over. But I'm going to tell you, we don't need to let that kind of stuff out there into the atmosphere where that stuff is. And I mean, just, have you ever seen people do that kind of stuff? They start complaining, next thing you know, you got about 10 of them that are complaining. It spreads. And it just draws stuff to you. Not good stuff. They were destroyed of the destroyer. We need to be careful. And I'm going to tell you a beautiful little, you know, one time there was, it's over there in Mark 5. I'm not going to go read all the scriptures for time. But there was a ruler of the synagogue, and his name was Jairus. And Jairus had a daughter who was sick. Very, very, very sick. And he came to Jesus, and he basically fell down at his feet. And he said, you know, this is what they would say. You know, he said, Lord, I know that you can heal my daughter. Come to my house. She's sick. And you know what Jesus did? He just said, I'll do it. We'll go. Let's go. And as he and Jairus were walking there to go take care of that daughter, it wasn't too long to... This is a little amazing illustration we've talked about a bunch. But there was a woman who had an issue of blood. And she had that issue of blood for how many years? Anybody remember? 12. 12 years, right? And she had exhausted all of her resources. She had seen all the doctors. She had done everything you can do. And she was basically at the end of her rope. But do you know that she didn't complain? She didn't go, well, that's it. It's over. There's nothing for me. She went and just touched the hem with her faith. See, she never let all those problems and all those issues that she was dealing with affect her attitude. And I know that because she still had something that was very, very important. We sing a song, she never lost her faith. She kept her faith. She did not give her faith up in the Lord. She found Him and touched Him. You know, the Scripture says that He turned around and He felt, and He was being touched and thronged in that crowd. But it says He felt her get something out of Him. What I say about drawing something to you. She drew something to herself. But it was something really good. And it was because she didn't murmur or complain. She just thought, if I can just but touch the hem of His garment, I'll be healed. I mean, what kind of a faith is that to have after you've exhausted everything else? Oh, we cannot lose our faith in Jesus. As Jesus felt that healing virtue come out of Him, He said, who touched me? I think it was Peter, one of His disciples, looked and said, Lord, what are you talking about? There's many people in this crowd. You're getting touched. And He said, no, somebody touched me. Somebody drew something out of me. And it was her. And about that time, as they were walking to Jairus' house, a person came up to them and said, Jairus, your daughter is dead. Don't trouble the master any longer. And Jesus just turned and looked at Jairus and said, Jairus, fear not. Don't be afraid. Just believe. Keep walking, Jairus. Don't start complaining now. Don't start murmuring now. Oh, I know it looks bad, but don't give up on me now. Church, that's what the Lord is saying. Don't give up on me now. Don't let me go now. You've come too far to let me go now. There's healing out there for you if you'll just stay with me, Jairus. Just stay with me. They got to Jairus' house. Jairus stayed. There were only 3 disciples that Jesus took in that house with him, Peter, James, and John. As they got there, guess what started happening? Jesus walked in the house. They started scorning him. You know what the people in the house did? They started complaining. They started murmuring. They started talking all kinds of stuff. Oh, how stupid this is. I cannot believe you brought this man here. Did you not get the word that your daughter had died? Why did you bring him here? You know what Jesus said? You know what he did? Peter did this too. If you want to go in Acts and look at it, one time I think it was Dorcas. But he said, the scripture says Jesus put them all out. We don't need it. We don't need it. Church, it won't do anything for us. You can scorn, you can laugh, you can deride, you can make fun of, you can do whatever you want to do. But I'm going to tell you something, it's not going to work for you in the kingdom. Jesus just said, you scorners, you doubters, you unbelievers have got to go out of here. And I mean, he took them and removed them all out of that house. And y'all know the end of the story, don't you? This story I'm telling today has a happy ending for those that believe. For those that keep their faith. For those that don't give up. For those that don't fall into bad attitudes and complain and murmur. Poor old little old me, pity for me, feel sorry for me. You know, I have so much that's gone on, you don't understand. No, sir. We all have things like that, don't we? Not focusing on that. Focusing on life. And oh, let's stay with it. Let's not quit in the middle. Let's not give up our faith in the Lord. Because I'm going to tell you, with faith in Jesus, I've said it many times, but everything is possible for you. And me. Everything. But oh, we don't want to be destroyed, do we? Like they were, we don't want to complain. Oh, we've got so much to be thankful for today. Probably more so than any people that's ever lived in this life. And the only reason we do is Jesus. Without Him, there's nothing anyway. So you know what? Don't come looking to me because, listen, I'll tell you all this. I'll just be real honest with you. I've cast my net and my lot with Him. Where whatever that is, I'm prepared to see it. But I'm going to tell you something. There is no way that you're ever going to get me backing off. Doesn't matter. No way. I'm not going to give it up. Because without it, what do we have anyway, church? If you don't have Jesus, what do you have in this world? Let me ask you, what's the point of any of it if we don't have Him? You're better, I'm going to just say this, you are better off dead than living without faith in Him. There's no way we're giving it up. No way. But oh, let's keep our mouths and our actions and our attitudes. Because you know, people watch. They really do. They feed off of you. You may not think so, but at your place of employment, you go in there with a bad nature and an attitude, don't need it. Don't need it here, don't need it there, don't need it anywhere. Oh, I tell you what, I want people, when they know about me, I want them to say, there goes a guy, right there.
He knows his God.
That's it. That's right. There goes a guy. Yes?
Well, I will just say for the last 3 weeks, I have heard
this that you're talking about played out over and over and over on drive time sports. People have complained and complained and complained. And that, none of us are doing that, are we? But they have just complained and complained and complained about you know what. And it don't do us any good.
Not a lick.
And I will tell you this. I had this revelation last night. Y'all want to hear it?
Sure.
I don't need a football team to make me feel better about me.
That's right.
Jesus makes me feel better
Yes.
about me. How about y'all? Amen.
Thank you for that. It's true. It's true. Oh, it's just so silly. Some of the times I can't believe. One guy had the audacity to say and don't take this the wrong way, please, but he came to me and we were talking about a game. He goes, well, I'm just going to pray my team wins. And I looked at him, I go, don't, please, and I have to be careful here because this is also stupid in so many ways, and I'm a huge football fan, don't get me wrong. But I mean, when you pay, I go, how much money do you pay to go to watch those? It's like $1,500 for a weekend for him to go up there. And I go, so you're taking $1,500 towards a football game. And you want to pray about winning a football game, but you could take that $1,500 and you could go do something. See, where God's concerned, He's not interested in like my entertainment and whether or not such and such here, such that you could take that and go actually do something with it. I'm just letting y'all know how God thinks about people, not about the way we think, but the way He does. And look, I've struggled this fight, but I'm not gonna let that stuff get into me and then mess me up. And the next thing I know, if it's just like that area, it'll be any other area. And it just kind of just goes and goes. But he's right. There's no point. Listen, that stuff's entertainment. It needs to stay there. It needs to stay where it belongs. I'm not preaching against it. I'm just, whatever you do, you do. But the thing is, God, you know, He's thinking so much higher than we do. See, He looks at the things we do as it's folly whenever we could be doing something that is truly beneficial. You see. Am I making y'all mad yet? I never know. I never know with this sports stuff. Tried not to make him mad. I don't want to offend anybody. But I'm saying, you know, I bet God has more to do on His plate than to worry about who wins football games. Now let me tell y'all something. We do too. We do too. We have more on our plates to really think about as we live this life than just this trivial, mundane stuff that ruins everybody's attitude. It's just food for thought. Y'all don't have to do anything with that. That's just extra and it was free. Y'all stand up.